Hello everybody and welcome back to Random Vids. So, back in 2024, 2 years ago, I finally was able to watch SpongeBob Season 13 as I got the disc for my birthday. So, I watched a bit of it, but unfortunately I didn't get to finish SpongeBob Season 13. Well, that's okay. I ended up rewatching the series because I didn't really remember the episodes that I watched. So last year I rewatched the whole series and I ended up finishing it last year. But I ended up getting super busy with videos and I didn't really find time to make some sort of video about it. But I figured, alright, well let's try again. So this year I ended up rewatching all of SpongeBob Season 13 just recently, and I just finished. So, before I forget the episodes, I want to do a review on SpongeBob Season 13. I'm 2 years later than I wanted to be, and I know that we're up to SpongeBob 16 seasons now, or something like that. And I think they're on a 17th season. I'm so far behind, it's not even funny. So, Connor Brown, I'm sorry for keeping you waiting, and I hope you do enjoy this video. So, obviously, I've talked about SpongeBob a lot. 3 years ago is when I talked about, my favorite and least favorite episodes from, the certain seasons. I talked about, my unpopular opinion on certain episodes that I know people love or hate. And I even reviewed certain episodes that good friends of mine, like Connor Brown, liked or disliked. And I ended up mentioning my opinion. Well, then in the past few years, I started reviewing all the SpongeBob seasons. So I reviewed seasons 1 to 5, and I do want to do more in the future. But for today, because I promised I wanted to do this video for Connor Brown. I wanted to do it in the back before, but I didn't get a chance to. So we'll do it now. So this is gonna be me reviewing every single episode from SpongeBob Season 13. Now, 3 years ago, I said that modern SpongeBob is my favorite of the three. Modern, classic, and mid, I guess if you want to call it that. Modern SpongeBob was my favorite, but I've only seen seasons 9 to 12 at that point. I haven't seen season 13 back in 2023. So, does my opinion still remain the same? And I'm 4 years older now than I was back in 2023, or 3 years, whatever. 4 years actually now, because I just had a birthday. So, yeah, 4 years older than what I was back in 2023 when I first started reviewing. So, who knows, maybe my opinions have changed a little bit. But we'll get into that today. How good is Season 13 of SpongeBob? Let's get started. So episode 1 is A Place for Pets. So this is the very first episode of Season 13. So there was a strict no pet policy in the Krusty Krab. However, when someone ends up bringing a pet into the Krusty Krab but pay double, then of course Mr. Krabs, being the greedy person he is, allows pets to eat in the Krusty Krab as well. However, the health inspector ends up finding out and allows only people or pets. And Mr. Krabs ends up choosing pets. So this upsets everybody, and they end up turning themselves into pets just so they could eat at the Krusty Krab. And then I think the pets and non-pets end up fighting, and eventually the health inspector says it's fine to do whatever. So then the episode kind of ends how it began. I don't remember if Mr. Krabs still kept the no pets thing or not. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting one to start off. It's not my favorite episode of Season 13, but it's fine enough. It's a fine enough episode. But 13 seasons of SpongeBob, and I don't know, I'm just expecting a little more oomph into the 13th season, if you know what I mean. It's not a bad episode, though, so I'm going to give it probably like a C+. Episode 2, Lockdown for Love. I usually like the Plankton and Karen episodes, especially as the series has gone on, just because I feel like they're just so hilarious together, and they really make them feel like an actual, funny relationship. Or they have a funny relationship, I should say. So Karen at this point is so sick of Plankton and his schemes for Krabby Patty formulas. So can they just have one romantic date without Plankton trying to steal it? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work. So Karen basically puts the chum bucket on lockdown so Plankton can prove that he can do a romantic date with Karen without getting distracted. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and he tries to get Patrick to dress up as Ray Ray for him. So, yeah, it doesn't end up working. And Once again, Plankton just can't get that formula that he always wanted. This one can be a fun episode at times, although it's a very predictable episode, because if we all know Plankton, we know what he's going to do. But I still love seeing Karen and Plankton together, so I'm going to give this one a B tier. Episode 3, Under the Small Top. Oh no. No. No, 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 no! Don't you dare make me review this episode. Don't you dare make me review... Okay, fine, I'm going to review it. So SpongeBob orders a package that has circus fleas in them, but they end up going to Squidward's house instead. So, of course, Squidward, ends up throwing it out, but the circus fleas are mad at Squidward, so they, say it with me, torture Squidward. So, 13 seasons of SpongeBob later, and we just still can't get rid of Squidward torture episodes. Why? Why are we this far in the series? SpongeBob is what? He's going to be 30 years old by the end of this decade. 30 years later, and we're still doing Squidward torture episodes, and they're still never fun. Yeah, it's a dumb episode. What could have been a fun episode with SpongeBob getting Patrick and potentially Squidward to watch the circus fleas with him just turned into Squidward torture. I will never understand the love that the production puts into making this character suffer, but whatever. You do you, I guess. This episode gets an F just because it's Squidward torture. I'm so sick of Squidward torture at this point. Like I said, we're 13 seasons into SpongeBob. Almost 30 years of the making. Okay, this season came out probably like in 2023 or 2022. But still, I didn't watch it then. I watched it in 2026 and 2025, whatever. But still, it's like all these years later and you're still going to do the same stupid crap. It's not fun. Nobody likes the Squidward torture. Yeah, I understand. SpongeBob's for the kids nowadays, but come on. Like, I don't think even the kids like seeing this character being tortured that much. Squidward didn't really even deserve it that much either. Okay, maybe a little. He did throw their whole tent out, but still, like, it's dumb. I'm sick of episodes like this. So this is easily an F tier just because of the fact that 30 years later and they're going to do Squidward torture. Episode 4, Squidward's Sick Days. Man, the production must have hated Squidward in these two episodes, because not only did we have one episode with fleas torturing Squidward, it's one thing with fleas. They're small and tiny, and it wasn't necessarily the whole episode, and Squidward potentially could have deserved it a little bit. But in this episode, it just feels like it comes straight out of season 6 or 7. This episode is garbage. So, Squidward pretends to be sick from work. Mr. Krabs does not like this, so he sends SpongeBob over to be his doctor to help him feel better. And SpongeBob all of a sudden is like mid-season SpongeBob, where he's all of a sudden just too stupid for his own good, where he's like stupider than Patrick type of stupid. And the helping obviously doesn't help, it just tortures Squidward. So yes, say it with me, this is another Squidward torture episode. Why are we still having episodes like this, guys? You guys are 13 seasons in. I should not be seeing episodes like this anymore. I thought we got out of the mid-tier SpongeBob, not go back down to it. I've heard a lot of mixed things about modern SpongeBob. I heard mostly negative things about it, though. I wonder if it's episodes like this that are really driving people away, because I can totally see that. We're 13 seasons in, and we're still getting episodes like this that don't need to exist. All Squidward is doing is pretending to be sick, and really, this is what we had to go through the whole episode? I refused to watch this episode last year, but I wanted to watch it this year, just so I had a proper, I had a proper rewatch, so I knew what I was looking for. So I watched every episode of Season 13, this time around. Yeah, this episode's an F-. This is easily... in fact, this might probably be the worst episode of Season 13, because nothing goes on at all, and it's just Squidward torture. Literally, you could have put this in with Season 6 or 7, and nobody would have even noticed the difference. This episode is garbage. Say it with me, garbage. It is horrible. It's awful. I'm so sick of seeing Squidward being tortured 13 seasons in. Every time we see Squidward, we don't have to see him getting hurt, guys. Like, come on. It's not funny. Alright. Rant over. Let's move on before I rip this whole season apart. Episode 5, Goofy Scoopers. So, an animatronic show ends up getting shut down at the Goofy Goober because SpongeBob and Patrick are basically the only ones who like it, probably just because of pure nostalgia. And all the kids are so tired of this tired animatronic show, and they're going to replace it with some sort of groovy disco dance type of thing. SpongeBob and Patrick don't like this, so they try to get the animatronic band back together. Okay, they're not animatronics then. They must be alive. They're just built to look like animatronics? Okay, that reasoning doesn't make sense. But it's a cartoon. We don't question logic. We go along with it, I guess. They try to get the band back together, but Mr. Octopus guy doesn't want to go back, but he ends up coming back anyway. It doesn't work until they end up working together with Mr. Disco guy, I forget his name. And they put on a band for everybody, and it ends up working. It's not a bad episode, and this episode kind of this is basically just the Chuck E. Cheese episode, where they were replacing all the animatronics with the new dance floor. This is literally just that episode. It's literally just that. So I find that really goofy. Yeah, there's nothing much else to this episode. It's okay. I'd give it another probably B tier. Number 6, Pat the Dog. Am I the only one getting tired of Patrick episodes just focusing on absolutely nothing? Remember back in the golden era of SpongeBob where we had episodes like Big Pink Loser, where Patrick, can have more oomph to his character. He wasn't just downright obliviously, stupidly, annoyingly dumb, but he actually had a lot of depth he had more depth into his character. He wasn't this annoying, and his episodes could still be really hilarious and funny. Well, unfortunately, this isn't Season 2 anymore, so unfortunately we get episodes like Pat the Dog. Oh boy, because Pat the Horse from Season 11 was just so great, so we had to rebrand that as Pat the Dog. Because, why the heck not? And I wasn't a big fan of Pat the Horse from Season 11, it just seemed like the very nothing episode. So, alright, what do we have here? Okay, I will say, Pat the Dog is better than Pat the Horse. But that's because the scenery isn't just the Krusty Krab the whole time. We get to see that funny dog catcher from Season 12. And his shenanigans. And it's nice seeing him kind of turn over a new leaf. And it's nice seeing SpongeBob there to kind of help out. So that's kind of the fun scenes. The scenes that weren't fun, of course, was anything that involved Squidward. Because what is Squidward's theme in Season 13? If we see Squidward, then we throw... I don't know, we'll just say he gets tortured. Because, Squidward then has to watch Pat the Dog. But Patrick, of course, is going to be a complete jerk to Squidward until the animal catcher comes. And then, all of a sudden, he's fine. So then Squidward has to try to train this worm. And I will say, the ending did catch me by surprise where the worm is walking Squidward. Okay, maybe Squidward didn't get as tortured as I thought. He's smiling. He's smiling there, right? Yeah, this episode's a C. It's just... You can only do so well in Patrick acting like a dog. You can tell they're really running out of ideas again. Come on, guys. You gotta do better again. Like, come on. I don't want to see nothing plots. Episode 7. Something narwhal. This way comes. Oh, no. Oh, no. Guys, are we getting into crossover episodes? Well, if that's the case, good. I love crossover episodes because these are usually really great, seeing two different cartoons work. Oh, it's Camp Coral. At least I think. Connor Brown, I know you're all going to watch this video later, but please correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen Camp Coral before. But is whatever her name is, Narveen and her little brother, the characters we see in this episode, are they from Camp Coral? Because if so, why? Why would you do that? Why would you mix a good series with a bad series? Okay, I will say though that the two characters are likable enough. That big yellow guy, I don't know his name. I forget his name. I mean, he's basically a better Patrick at this point. I'm sorry, but I'm just so sick of Patrick just being an idiot that isn't funny to watch anymore. So I almost like this guy better than Patrick. I don't mind these characters, and honestly, I don't even mind this episode. They all move into SpongeBob's house for a bit, and then eventually SpongeBob ends up getting rid of them, thanks to Plankton's cousins. So it's basically Plankton's army again. Okay, that's kind of neat, I will say. That was kind of fun. So I didn't mind this episode, actually. I'd give it a B tier, even though it is, I think, a crossover episode. Episode 8, Chums. So here we have another Plankton fails to steal the formula type of episode. But I will say, this one at least was kind of unique. Plankton ends up going in the sewers, and a bunch of chum characters who worships Plankton, and Plankton uses them to help him take the formula. But of course, like all the other episodes, it fails. But I will say, this was at least kind of a unique episode. But yeah, this episode for some reason reminds me of the episode from Season 12, where they're trying to hide all the chum everywhere. I don't know why it reminds me of that episode so much, but here we are. It also kind of reminds me of another episode from Season 12, where Mr. Krabs all of a sudden has like this giant obsession with chum. Yeah, something about that is just random and goofy, but oh well, here we are. This is a fine episode, I guess. I'd give it a B tier. Next up, we have SpongeBob's Road to Christmas. Or I should say, episode 9 is SpongeBob's Road to Christmas. So, we have another Christmas special. These ones usually give me the warm fuzzies. Okay, well, it depends. I'm usually a sucker for the Christmas specials, and this one is no exception. SpongeBob, Patrick, and Plankton, of all people, try to go to the North Pole to give Santa a present that Santa forgot, and Plankton's just trying to get on the nice list. So, this goofy trio is a trio that we usually don't really see, but they're great, and I love all the random things, like the elves throwing this big party when Santa's not there. The reindeer are just super buff. Yeah, this episode is just so random, but I like it. I like when SpongeBob gets out of its comfort zone a little bit and goes and likes to get a little random at times, instead of just the boring Squidward gets tortured because why the heck not type of episodes. No, this one is really good. And of course, Santa does come back eventually, and ends up getting the gift. So this episode is actually pretty good, and Patrick actually doesn't overstay his welcome or feels stupidly annoying in this episode either. Plus, thank goodness it's Plankton they're torturing instead of Squidward, and it's not even that bad when it comes to torturing. So overall, I mean, it's not a perfect episode by any means, but it's definitely a good one. In my opinion, so far this is probably my favorite episode that I've seen. I got excited the last 2 times that this episode came on because I remember liking it from the year prior. So I guess that tells you something. I'm going to give this episode an A+. If I'm in a really good mood, maybe S, but that might be a little too much. So I'm going to give it an A+. Episode 10, Potato Puff. This Puff kind of does look like a potato a little bit. I'm surprised it took them 13 seasons to really figure that out. So, as usual, Miss Puff is tired of SpongeBob failing her class, so she turns herself into a potato. Or more so, she steals a potato from the French narrator. I like how he's kind of become a recurring character that we see every once in a while. But anyway, Mrs. Puff ends up taking off her wig. Okay, apparently she doesn't even have hair. It's just a wig. And she puts it on this potato, and SpongeBob, of course, is dumb, so he thinks it's Mrs. Puff. Meanwhile, Mrs. Puff watches up from the lighthouse while she tries to put on other wigs and just rocks out the music. It's hilarious. But it is just your typical SpongeBob fails boating school. I usually think these episodes are pretty just meh. But I will say, props to the writers for trying to find something different 13 seasons later, and I think they did a fair enough job. And in fact, fair enough that I might push it up from a C tier to potentially a B tier. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about this episode. It either gets a C+ or a B-. It's one of those two. Number 11, There Will Be Grease. This always reminds me of the movie Grease, just because of the reference. But other than that, no, this is nothing like the movie Grease at all. So this is an episode where Plankton and Mr. Krabs actually end up working together. I always love episodes like that, because we don't ever usually see that too often, especially in newer seasons, it feels like. But, hey, props to episodes that do end up having things like this in it. So they end up finding a puddle of grease that apparently has been forming under both their restaurants for many years. So they try to use it, and they call it everything juice for everybody. But, of course, eventually it ends up failing, and then both the Krusty Krab and the Chum Bucket end up falling into the cavern below. So this just turns into Chum Caverns from Season 6, I guess. And trust me, this season has lots of old season references. I feel like as the seasons go on, they have more and more references to the older seasons, which in some cases can be great, in other cases it can be a little too much, and I do realize that a bit, but I don't mind it yet. So let's move on. Oh yeah, by the way, this episode gets a B tier. I like it. Episode 12, The Big Bad Bubble Bass. So we're bringing back the stories from Season 11. So this is obviously referencing Pat Nokia, where we had that, but this time it's the Big Bad Wolf, told by Bubble Bass. Say what you want about Bubble Bass and how he's in too many episodes nowadays, but I still really like Bubble Bass as a character, just because he's a funny character. His design is just so hilarious, so I like Bubble Bass, even if, you know, he can be kind of greedy, kind of nerdy, and kind of mean at times. But he always gets what's coming for him, too, so that's what makes it funnier. And I like his mom, too. His mom's always hilarious. So, this is literally just told us the story of the Big Bad Wolf. But Bubble Bass but SpongeBob and Patrick have a toy that Bubble Bass wants. So he tries to take it from them, and he ends up dressing up in a bunch of different costumes, which pays homage to the actual little show that they had. And, of course, when they don't give it to him, he blows their houses down, including SpongeBob and then Patrick. And then they end up running to Squidward's house, and his house is the one that ends up staying safe, I guess. Which is kind of funny. And I like how, for once, Squidward actually isn't getting tortured in an episode. Okay, well, Bulbasaur's mom eventually blows Squidward's house away. But, still. Squidward suffered, but at least SpongeBob and Patrick did too. And at least Squidward's the one who got to build his house back. I didn't see SpongeBob and Patrick building their houses back, so I guess they're homeless. And overall, this is just kind of a goofy episode all around. Even if Bulbasaur isn't meant to be one of the main characters, I don't care. I still like this episode. I'm going to give it an A tier. And I think it's way better than the Pat Nocchio episode from Season 11. That episode just felt like a whole load of nothing. Episode 13, Seaman Sponge Haters Club. What a good idea. Characters that get annoyed with SpongeBob just having their own little club. This includes Mrs. Puff, Plankton, Bubble Bass, a random mailman, and, of course, the one hosting it, Squidward. This makes all the sense, and I really love the way that they did this episode. Well, at first. I like how they were sharing their stories of their annoyance with SpongeBob, and I love how they start off saying, we mean SpongeBob no harm, we just can't stand him sometimes. Which seems great that they're not just going out of character. Also like how in Squidward's story, he just shows them in real time what ends up happening. But of course, what's going to happen afterwards, you better believe some Squidward torture. Like, his house completely burning down, and he doesn't even join the club, who would then end up going over to SpongeBob's house. Okay, so that kind of defeats the purpose of the Sponge Hater Club then. Okay. Sure. Why the heck not? But I will say, it was a very unique episode, and I really did like the first half of this episode. So, because of that, I'm going to give it a B+. Because the second half does kind of put it down a little, but I still think it's a very creative episode. Episode 14, Food Truck. I'm not even going to attempt to say that middle word. So, in this episode, Mr. Krabs is making Squidward and SpongeBob go and sell patties on the road. But obviously it goes horribly wrong, and they end up selling no patties to anybody. They try to sell patties to a whole bunch of different people, but all these trucks end up kicking them away. They even attempt to try to go to rock bottom, which is hilarious. And a lot of funny situations down there, including the balloon guy who tied the balloon to SpongeBob's hand in Season 1 in rock bottom. So yeah, this is a pretty decent episode. It reminds me of, it kind of reminds me of two different episodes. It reminds me of the, I forget what this episode's called, but it was the trash episode from Season 11 where SpongeBob and Squidward are driving that trash truck, and it kind of reminds me of the Squid on a Bus episode from Season 12. But I think this episode is better than both of those episodes. In the trash one, Patrick got annoying in that episode, and in the Squid on a Bus, Squidward was just getting tortured by SpongeBob and Patrick most of the time. So I feel like this episode is done much better than those ones, because we get to see some fun old Squidward and SpongeBob. So it's kind of like a worse pizza delivery in a way. So what do I give this episode? I mean, it definitely was a little boring at times, but not bad. I'd give it probably a B-, or maybe a C+, one of the two. Episode 15, Uptown Girls. So we get to see our favorite narwhal, Narween, return with her little brother. And we get to see Pearl in this episode too. Who doesn't like Pearl? So in this episode, Narveen and Pearl end up going to the mall with Lady Upturn. I swear, this lady is just in everything now at this point. She's almost becoming a recurring character, kind of like Rube is, ever since that Krusty Catering episode from Season 10. Well, anyway, Pearl and Narween end up going to the mall. So it's fun seeing Narleen try to figure out things that the mall has, because she's not used to any of this. And I will say, she isn't one of those characters that's super annoying, so I don't mind seeing her. And of course, Pearl's fun to see at times too. So it's fun seeing these two hang out at the mall together. Meanwhile, her little brother is trying to help SpongeBob at the Krusty Krab. So this is a pretty good episode. It kind of reminds me of Mall Girl Pearl in a way from season 9. Because who doesn't like that episode? So this is another just great sequel, basically, to that episode, almost. It's fun seeing them kind of get in trouble together, and I like how Pearl isn't mad at Narlene for kind of getting them in trouble. They have a good old time. So I'd give this episode an A+. I still think the Christmas one's a little better, probably. But I don't know, this one's up there. Episode 16, Say Aww. I mean, that would be hard for me. When I watch TV shows and I see these cute little puppies and kitties and whatnot, I can't help but say aww. Chickens, okay. So in this episode, Plankton ends up creating. This has got to be one of Plankton's most funnest schemes in a while. It's been a while since I've seen Plankton have kind of a fun little scheming episode. Well, he ends up creating this cute little bird, or chicken, whatever you want to call it. It balks, so I'm going to call it a chicken. Because everyone says aw to Plankton because he's super short. So all the old ladies at the Krusty Krab are like pinching his cheeks and stuff. It's kind of funny, and it's hilarious. So anyway, he ends up creating this little chicken that if anyone says aw to it, then he'll turn into this giant robot, this giant robot vacuum basically, and he'll suck up anybody who does it. So, and the chick, I didn't even think about this. The chicken's name is Cutie Pie, which I think is hilarious. And of course, SpongeBob basically adopts it at that point. But it ends up sucking up everybody in Bikini Bottom, and they eventually pull Cutie Pie's uvula, and everybody ends up getting out of Cutie Pie, who would end up eating them all. But But we don't have to worry about Cutie Pie going forever, because he now has a new job at Glove World, which is kind of funny. So this is honestly another really great episode. I'd give this one probably another 8 tier. It's a great one from season 13, and another one of, like I said, usually Plankton schemes feel kind of samey at times, but I kind of like this one. It's different. Episode 17, Patrick the Mailman. I'm getting so tired of these Patrick episodes of him being pointless. Okay, well, at least he has help because he has SpongeBob. Okay, that's better. But still. Well, then when you think about it, this episode is literally just a carbon copy of Chocolate with Nuts from season 3, but just obviously worse. Well, honestly, this episode isn't quite as bad as what I remembered or what I would have originally thought, because not only does Patrick have SpongeBob to help him out, so he's not just being a dummy by himself, but SpongeBob can kind of help him out a little bit. And we get to see the one and only Kevin the Sea Cucumber in this episode, which I think is very random, but okay. I love how they're trying to give him his mail, but he just doesn't want it. If this would have been like most other characters, it would have been very boring. But because it's Kevin the Sea Cucumber, it makes it funny, just because we know how he is in that episode from season 2. So it's funny seeing him try to reject this mail. And then there's this old guy who never got mail, so they're just giving him a whole bunch of mail. And I like how they ended up giving Kevin the mail that wasn't even addressed to him. It was for Bubble Bass. Yeah, this episode is, I mean, it can be slow at times. You can tell it's definitely not as good. It's very different from Chocolate with Nuts, and definitely not as good, but it still has its fun moments in here, and it's not as bad as I once thought. But it's definitely still only a C tier episode. A C plus, though, because it does have its funny moments. Episode 18, Captain Pipsqueak. So in another attempt for Plankton to try to steal the Krabby Patty formula, he tries to group together with iconic cartoon villains from the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy series, because unfortunately we can't have Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episodes anymore, so instead we can get episodes like this, which is fine, but it does boil down to another Plankton attempts to steal the Krabby Patty formula, but fails episode. But it can still be fun seeing these villains grouped together and stuff. It reminds me of the one episode from season 7, I believe it was, where we saw Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy defeat a bunch of villains. This episode kind of reminds me of that one for some reason. But, it's alright. I'd give it a C tier. Episode 19, Plain to See. Oh man, SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward going to Bora Bora together? that would be kind of a fun trip for seeing these three iconic SpongeBob characters, and what fun times that they could have. And of course, goofy moments too. Well, it's unfortunate that they don't even ever go to Bora Bora. They just, fly there. Well, Squidward won a trip to go there, but he has to take two people along or something like that, or SpongeBob, I forget how it worked. Squidward won it, but, yeah. Basically, what ended up happening is SpongeBob and Patrick come along with. So we see, obviously, what we probably would rather not see. And that's SpongeBob and Patrick acting stupider than they normally do around Squidward, and then Squidward's the one that gets bullied, tortured for it. Like, them apparently having assigned seats on the plane, and the seat buckle thing where SpongeBob and Patrick are running around and Squidward's all tied up, begging for them to help them, but they just don't care. And of course a whole bunch of other scenes too, like the whole cart scene, and then Patrick just acting stupider than he really should be, where he ends up dumping both flight attendants out of the plane and the people who fly the plane too. I guess we did see a cool moment where Squidward was flying the plane, but then, you know, they're going right back to Bikini Bottom. This episode really reminds me of Pineapple RV and Squid on a Bus from the last season, and not in a good way. What could have been a really, 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 really great episode, what could have been one of the probably best episodes of Season 13 and one of the best SpongeBob episodes of all time, turned just into your typical Squidward torture episode. But it did have its good moments, so I'm going to give it only a D tier. Not a F tier, but definitely a D tier, because Squidward torture, that's so 20-some odd years ago. Like, we're sick to death of it already. Come on. Number 20, Squidferatu. I kind of like how Nosferatu kind of became another one of these recurring characters we see every once in a while. Kind of like Lady Upturn. Just because of that one episode from Season 2. So, okay, that's just more of them calling back in references to the older series. But if it's done great, then I don't mind it. So Squidward's been getting Nosferatu's mail for years. So him, along with SpongeBob, attempt to take it all up. So this is the type of episode I was more expecting from the last episode, Plain to See, whatever it's called. This is the type of fun that I was expecting. Squidward isn't getting tortured every time we see him, and him and SpongeBob are kind of going on a fun little journey together. And I like how they end up spending the night there too, and they were, and then they ended up making it look like Nosferatu was going to eat them in their sleep, but he didn't then. So it's kind of funny. I like how at the end of the episode we get the callback to the lights flicking on and off, but it's not Nosferatu because he's standing right there, and it's Phantom of the Opera instead. This is a goofy episode, one that kind of caught me by surprise. Now Slappy is kind of just okay as a character. I don't really care much for him, but in this episode in particular I don't mind him in. I'd give this episode an A tier. Number 21, Slappy Days. Oh, here's the character I was just talking about. Well, he got his own episode started toward him, so, okay. So Nosferatu is sick, so Slappy has to take him to, the vampire doctor, I guess? And while he's doing that, Slappy is just out doing his own whatever. He plays some games, he buys a flea collar, okay. And he ends up meeting a girl. Okay, I guess that's kind of cool and all. But overall, this episode is just kind of meh. It's kind of full of nothing. We don't even see any main SpongeBob characters, besides like SpongeBob for a second. So yeah, this episode, unfortunately, because of it being just kind of drawn out and boring, is going to get a D tier. Number 22, Welcome to Binary Bottom. Oh man, this is the type of episodes I expect from 13 seasons of SpongeBob. What if everyone was just robots? Well, we entered another title zone. So in this episode, all of our favorite SpongeBob characters end up becoming robots. We get to see SpongeBob, Gary, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, Patrick, all of our usual characters. Heck, even Sandy as the villain? Yeah, Sandy's kind of a villain, I guess, in this episode. Okay. So I love seeing all the different buildings and the way they would look if they were robotified. Like, I like how the Krusty Krab is literally just a giant battery. And for the Chum Bucket, I love how Plankton is a wind-up robot, and how Karen is an actual human now. That's hilarious. I love the way they did that. Because obviously she's usually the robot, but now she's a human. Well, a fish. You know what I mean. She's a non-robot. So it's really funny, and I love the way they did this episode. It just seems like a fun, hilarious episode that I would expect 13 seasons into making of them to make something goofy like this. So because of that, I might have to give this episode an S tier. S or an A+. It's up there. It's one of the two, but it's definitely one of the most creative episodes and one of my favorites from season 13. Episode 22, You're Going to Pay, Phone. This episode's kind of goofy, where Mr. Krabs ends up buying a phone, but he doesn't listen to the person that ends up selling the phone to him about how it will come with a curse. But of course, Mr. Krabs doesn't care because it also comes with money. So he ends up hanging the phone up in the Krusty Krab, but this phone's a little funky. It ends up flying over to Mr. Krabs' eyeballs, and it ends up hallucinating Mr. Krabs into doing things like giving everyone his money, free Krabby Patties, and even handing over the deed to the Krusty Krab. Wow, okay, this phone is evil. But then Mr. Krabs opens up the money thing and finds a demon? Potentially? Okay. They end up switching lives, and Mr. Krabs is now on the phone. And I forget who, Squidward ends up throwing it out, I think? Yeah, this is just such a random episode, but once again, it is kind of funny. And it's nice seeing Mr. Krabs get what he deserves to, but I don't know. This episode's good. It's not one of my absolute favorites, but it's good. I give it a B+. Number 23, A Skin Wrinkle in Time. Oh, and here we have the third of the Title Zone. Okay, 3 Title Zone episodes. That's great. But how much better is it than the other 2 episodes in the Title Zone? Well, unfortunately, it's the worst of the bunch. It just features Patrick's grandpa from the Patrick Star Show. Oh, great. This is another crossover that I could care less about. I'm here to watch, I don't know, SpongeBob SquarePants? I didn't watch SpongeBob to watch the Patrick Star Show. This is literally just that episode. If you like Grand Pat, then great. But the only people who would really like this character is the children. Other than that, he's a very boring character in this one episode of SpongeBob. And this episode itself, it's boring. It doesn't even go, like, this would be the type of episode that I wouldn't mind them doing, like, flashbacks from older seasons. I guess the best part of this episode was when he made his way to when Grand Pat made his way to the intro, and it was him instead of SpongeBob. But other than that, we've seen that before, though, in episodes like Truth or Square from season 6. Other than that, though, this is a very boring episode. It's so boring that it's down there with the F tiers. And especially the fact that it's going to cross over Patrick Star Show. Yeah, F tier. Number 24, Abandoned Twits. So this is a fun little SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs type of episode. They're building a ship so they can sell Krabby Patties on the sea. I mean, obviously the shipbuilding goes as fun as you'd expect. Squidward gets tortured for no reason, but after that, the episode actually gets really funny. So it's fun seeing them on a ship, on a boat, and what makes this episode even more hilarious is, of course, the scene where Bubble Bass ends up running into the boat and ends up scraping it up, making it sink Titanic style. I always thought that was hilarious about this episode. So anytime I hate this episode, I just remember that scene, and it ultimately changes my mind. And in all honesty, this has got to be like right in the middle of like my SpongeBob. If I would rank all the episodes from season 13, this would probably be one of those episodes to be like right in the middle. It has its moments that's a little annoying, but it does have its really good moments too. So I'd give this episode probably give it a B tier, B-. Yeah, I think a B- works great. Number 25, Walhalla. Okay. So this is one of those episodes that would make zero sense, just because of the fact that how could this guy live in SpongeBob's wall if SpongeBob's house has gotten destroyed a bajillion times at this point? But yeah, I kind of spoiled the episode already. Some guy's living in SpongeBob's wall that him and Gary end up finding out about. But this guy is a total creep and a big weirdo. I mean, yeah, he has been living inside of SpongeBob's wall for a while. And I think Patrick shows up at one point. It's a very bizarre episode. And then they manage to get out because of plot. Yeah, this is a very bizarre episode. It's one that's just, it's fine. It's not one of my absolute favorites, but it's fine. So it gets a C tier. Number 26, Salty Sponge. So Mr. Krabs makes SpongeBob work at the Salty Spittoon for a bit because plot. When I say that, that means I just forget why. So we get to see our good old pal Reggie from Season 3 standing there. Unfortunately, he has no lines, but that's okay. SpongeBob works there, and he ends up scaring Tough Puff away, aka Mrs. Puff. Gee, I wonder why. Because Tough Puff, for many of those people, she was the strongest to them. But as soon as she sees SpongeBob, that changes everything. So now they think SpongeBob is this really big, strong guy, and he ends up redecorating the salty spittoon. This episode's fine. It gets a B-. Number 26, Karen for Spot. So this is a great episode where Plankton is off on a little evil trip or whatever, and Karen has to take care of Spot while Plankton's gone. And it goes as well as you think. This is a really great episode where Plankton isn't actually trying to steal the formula for once. So, because of that, it gets an A+. But also because of the fact that, who doesn't love Spot? He's so cute. Number 29, Arbor Day Disarray. So, Sandy gives all of her friends these trees to grow. But something that happens with the trees is that they all come alive. And what's funny is that I believe everybody who ends up getting the trees end up getting the same voice actor that the characters have, which is kind of funny. Something that I noticed. Like Patrick's tree kind of sounds like Patrick. Squidward's tree kind of sounds like Squidward. It's a neat little thing I didn't notice at first. It's a goofy enough episode, so I guess I'm going to give it... I'd give about a C+. Number 30, Ain't That the Tooth? So, this random tooth fairy guy ends up showing up, and SpongeBob and Patrick thinks that he's a tooth fairy. But he's really a burglar. But a bunch of random mishaps later, and Patrick thinks he's the tooth fairy, which is kind of silly. But I guess it's in character for season 13 Patrick to think that. Honestly, it is kind of a silly episode. I love how the burglar isn't stealing. I guess he is, but instant karma for him. So yeah, this can be kind of a funny episode, I guess, at times. It reminds me of the whole tooth from season 9. So, this episode, I'm gonna give it a B tier. No, in fact, I'm gonna give it a B+. Episode 31, Ma and Pa's Big Hurrah. So their avocado wilted away, so they have to stay at SpongeBob's while they have a blue one growing. And SpongeBob wants to act proper in front of them, but his parents are just as goofy as SpongeBob is. Like, they'll throw toilet paper all over Squidward's house, they'll go roller skating all over town, they'll go wrestling even. So they have some funny things. So they do have some crazy stuff. Now we see where SpongeBob gets it from. But yeah, this is another pretty decent episode. Another episode I'd probably put in that B tier. Plus, it's nice seeing SpongeBob's parents again. We don't see them as much anymore. Number 32, Yellow Pavement. Really? We're gonna copy that episode from season 5? Or it's just a film of Mrs. Puff showing everybody what a good and bad student does when driving. And the two students, of course, are SpongeBob and Squidward. Again. Okay, this is a very interesting episode to copy. But the question is it better than the one from season 5? Well, I'm gonna have to say yes. Just because I feel like Squidward doesn't get quite as tortured in this episode, and the jokes are a bit funnier. It's season 13 instead of season 5. So, I guess. And it's not as short either, so it doesn't feel like it's over before it even begins. So it does leave way for some, I guess, funny moments. But, it's still not my favorite episode ever, just because I wasn't really the biggest fan of the season 5 one, and I'm not a biggest fan of this one either. I'd much rather prefer that one from season 11, where Mr. Krabs and Plankton are trying to learn how to drive. So this episode gets, at best, it'd get probably like a C or C-, and at worst, it'd get like a D. Number 33, The Flower Plot. So what if Plankton gives up and moves away from Bikini Bottom, and all of a sudden this new flower shop takes over instead? Well, you get once again, kind of an interesting Plankton episode. So this new lady moves to town and ends up opening this flower shop. Oh, but this new lady is actually Plankton in disguise. It's kind of funny, and it's kind of a fun episode, and I'm curious to see how Plankton's going to mess this one up. But he does, and then eventually he ends up turning back into his old self. But what was really nice is that, for a minute, Plankton actually almost didn't even want the formula anymore. He kind of liked being this new lady, I guess. But, of course, it backfires, and he ends up turning back into Plankton. Decent episode overall. Also love how Karen's a flower pot. And I like how Karen and Plankton kind of reverse roles in this episode. Plankton's the one who kind of doesn't really care much about the formula, but Karen is the one that is into the formula. I kind of like the difference we see here. So, because of this being trying to make it different than just the other usual Plankton Steals Formula episodes, I'm gonna give it an A tier. I'm gonna give it A minus. Number 34, SpongeBob on Parade. I don't even know if we're even at number 34 anymore or not. I've been talking about SpongeBob for the last few hours now at this point, so I'm kind of losing it. Well, anyway, this episode, the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs, puts everybody on a parade, because why the heck not, to promote his restaurant. Plankton doesn't like this, but he realizes that one of the props that SpongeBob makes has the secret formula inside, so he creates his own parade and tries to smash into Mr. Krabs' parade. I also like how Squidward's in this tiny little Krabby Patty and trying to drive it. It's kind of hilarious. I also like all the other floats too. Like, we actually see Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy carrying Bubble Bass. Fred has, of course, his leg, and a few other floats here and there too. So there is some funny floats, and it is a neat episode idea too. What about a parade? We haven't really seen a parade style episode. This episode reminds me of one from season 8, I believe it was, where I forget how it worked. Yeah, they were trying to sell Krabby Patties on the street or something like that. Squidward was like dressed up as a monkey or something. But yeah, this is a pretty good episode. I'd give it probably I'd give it a B plus, maybe A minus. Number 35, Delivery to Monster Island. So what would happen if SpongeBob and Plankton end up stranded on an island together? Well, they end up stranded on Monster Island of all things, which is kind of goofy. And they have to work there to sell coconuts to everybody, to all the different monsters, so that they eat the coconuts and not them. But, of course, SpongeBob and Plankton are ready to get back to Bikini Bottom, so they end up creating a raft, or a boat, probably a little raft, I don't remember what, and they end up sailing back to Bikini Bottom. This is kind of an interesting episode. It kind of reminds me of that one episode from season 6, where it's like SpongeBob and the whole gang are stranded on islands, but I'd almost prefer this one just because this one is more fast-paced and not like a long special and they throw a whole bunch of different things all in one. It's a good episode, this one is, and I'd give it, once again, another like B plus or A minus. Number 36, Ride, Patrick, Ride. So in this episode, SpongeBob's teaching Patrick how to ride a bike. And there you go, that's the episode. Now, sometimes the simple and sweet episodes aren't necessarily horrible. And while this definitely isn't one of my favorite episodes, and definitely not one of my favorite Patrick episodes of all time, I will say it's nice seeing Patrick not be just a complete annoyance all the time. And yeah, he is dumb, but it takes a whole episode for him to kind of learn how to ride a bike, and not really. He ends up crashing into a whole bunch of different people. But I will say I like the parts where we see Mr. Krabs and Mrs. Puff riding on a bike, and even Squidward at one point. So overall, I'm going to give this episode a B tier, right in the middle. Number 37, Hot Cross Nuts. So Sandy makes some barbecue nuts for herself at the Krusty Krab to eat, but this ends up upsetting Mr. Krabs until he finds out how yummy they are. So he ends up putting them on the menu, and Krabby Patties slowly start to fall out of sort. I feel like I've seen many episodes like this one at this point. Krusty Dogs from season 7 ring a bell. But I will say this one is probably better than that episode, just because it does have the better modern SpongeBob humor that mid-SpongeBob just didn't have. And I like seeing SpongeBob and Sandy work together in something that isn't just science all the time. So it's a pretty good episode overall. Nothing too crazy. It's another one of those B-tier episodes. I'd probably give it a B-. Number 38, The Sir Urchin and Snail Fail Show. So, two characters that randomly appeared in just a random episode of season 11, all of a sudden have an episode dedicated to them. Sure, because that's totally what we wanted to see out of SpongeBob. They appeared in the I forget what it's called in season 11, but it's the one where Patrick just becomes smart. So that episode was a ripoff from season 4's Patrick Smart Pants, and this is a ripoff from that episode. Although I will say, because that episode was so weak in season 11 that I do really like, I do think this episode is better. So Sir Urchin and Snailfail break up on live TV, and they do not want to do any acting together ever again. But thanks to SpongeBob and Patrick, they end up bringing them back together again. It's a fine enough episode for for two characters that don't really belong in SpongeBob. People say Bubble Bass doesn't belong as a main character in SpongeBob, but I think these are two characters that don't need to be in SpongeBob. Just as a little TV show, that's fine. But as characters of an episode, nah, that's a little crazy. But I will say this episode overall isn't too bad. I'd give it like a C plus or like a B minus, one of the two. Whatever I'm in the mood for is what it gets. But it's around in that era for me. Number 39, Friendiversary. So in this episode, it's SpongeBob and Squidward's Friendiversary. So he constantly bugs Squidward all morning. But later on, Squidward ends up erasing SpongeBob's memory in his sleep about Squidward, so that SpongeBob just becomes the not normal SpongeBob from season 6 or 5, whatever episode from whatever season that was. However, somehow SpongeBob knows the Krabby formula that has a memory of Squidward. So Mr. Krabs makes Squidward try to have SpongeBob remember Squidward. And the way Squidward does it is to reenact older scenes from other episodes, which is kind of funny. And of course, you can't forget the crazy lava contraption from the season 10's insurance episode. Or no, life insurance, that's what it's called. I'm not sure how much I really feel about that. I feel like this was just an excuse for the writers to do more Squidward torture, because you know how much they love that, right? While this isn't as bad as, like, those other two, like the Squidward Sick Days episodes, or even the Bora Bora one, it's still up there as one of the weaker ones from season 13. This episode gets probably about a D tier, maybe D+. Number 39, mandatory music. Or are we at number 40? I don't even know what number we're on anymore. I'm just saying 39, I don't care. So in this episode, Squidward is playing the clarinet badly as usual, and the music police end up arresting him and send him to music school. Wait, this is literally just Professor Squidward from season 6. Except, and this time Squidward's not the teacher, he's one of the students. And SpongeBob ends up joining him. Oh no, it's just that other episode from season 6 that we don't talk about. Okay, well this episode isn't quite as bad. It's just Squidward continuously plays bad, and yeah, that's basically the whole episode. Squidward just plays his clarinet bad, but all the other students in the class learn to play good. Except then Squidward learns... Squidward does something that impresses everybody. I forget what it was. Something like that. He blows the tissue. That's right. Yeah, this is a very just random episode. I don't know if it's for the better or for the worse. It kind of feels like a bunch of different older episodes kind of riled up into one. Yeah, this is another C tier episode. I'd give it probably about a C exactly. Number 40, Dopey Dick. So in this episode, Squidward tells everyone a story of something that happened back in the past, where he wanted to work at a restaurant where Mr. Krabs and Plankton were working at. Something that I do like about this episode is Mr. Krabs and Plankton working together, and Plankton is like Mr. Krabs' parrot, is really funny. Then we see SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward on a ship together all of a sudden, and they're trying to capture Dopey Dick, because why the heck not? But of course they release him. But then Mr. Krabs and Plankton get their hands on him, and it turns into this fun little scene where they're trying to get Dopey Dick back from Mr. Krabs and Plankton. This is a pretty good episode, honestly, and it's fun seeing Squidward interact with SpongeBob and Patrick without them being just absolute idiots the whole time, and without Squidward getting tortured the whole time in it too. So thank God for that, and we actually have a pretty interesting story for a season 13 episode. In fact, I'm going to give it an A tier, maybe A minus though, but it's still A tier. Number 42, Plankton and the Beanstalk. So we have your normal Jack and the Beanstalk story told of Plankton. Plankton is now Jack, and he's trying to get SpongeBob, I guess, back from Mr. Krabs, because him and Karen are poor. This is already goofy. I love how the roles are kind of reversed in this episode, where Plankton's the good guy and Mr. Krabs is the bad guy. And yeah, if you haven't guessed, Mr. Krabs is the giant. I also love how Karen is just this cuckoo clock, because why the heck not? It's so hilarious. I love it. And I love seeing Plankton and Karen together. It's always goofy. And SpongeBob, of course, as the goose, makes sense. And Squidward as a harp, because, why the heck not? This is a great episode. I think it might be better than the Big Bad Bubble Bass. I'm not sure, though. But either way, this episode is definitely an A tier. It's an A+, I would say. Number 43, My Friend Patty. Oh no, they redid one of the worst episodes from season 5, To Love a Patty. Okay, this time it actually isn't half bad. So a Krabby Patty comes to life because of plot, and tries to befriend SpongeBob, but he then just basically turns into Forky from Toy Story 4, and wants somebody to eat him. Forky was a different story, but basically the same thing, if you know what I mean. SpongeBob doesn't want this to happen to Patty, so they have an argument about it, but then SpongeBob eats Patty, I believe. Once again, I don't remember. This is a very random episode, and a very random episode to copy the one from season 5 that definitely wasn't the most loved by many, but okay. I will say, though, this is definitely a much, much better To Love a Patty episode. It makes more sense since the Krabby Patty is actually, alive, that he has a friend. Overall, this would get probably another C. Number 43, or 44, or whatever. I'm going to say it's 43. Funbelievable. So, in Squidward's talk show host, he has Rube go around and find a bunch of fun things. And that's it. We get to see the crazy old lady from the episode Chocolate with Nuts from season 3, and Perch Perkins' mother, or grandmother, I forget who it was. But they have a copter duel, which is kind of funny. And, yeah, this is a pretty good episode. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's good. I'd give it a B tier. Number 44, Spatula of the Heavens. So now we're bringing back All That Glitters from season 4. Just great. Another great episode to bring back. However, unlike that episode where SpongeBob is constantly, throwing a fit, this episode he actually stands up and does what's right. Try to fix his old spatula. So it turns into a broken alarm clock from season 12. Okay. He goes up to find a guy who will fix his spatula, but he doesn't know how to fix it. No, that's not how it works. I'm sorry, we're going through so many episodes of SpongeBob, I'm starting to lose my mind. It ends up getting fixed. He breaks it again, but his real spatula is inside of him. Literally. Okay. This is another just very random episode. So, I gotta applaud it for doing better than All That Glitters from season 4, though. So, I'm gonna give it I'll probably give it a C+, maybe B-. Number 45, Gary's Playhouse. So, SpongeBob builds a playhouse for Gary, but he loves it so much that he ends up building onto it to make it look kind of like a SpongeBob's pineapple. He ends up going so far as to make a Patrick, a Squidward, even a Krusty Krab. So what could have started off as being as an annoying episode turned into an episode that was actually quite funny. And I like how all the SpongeBob characters want to watch all these characters because they find them cute. Honestly, I don't find any of these characters that cute. Good episode. I'd give it a B. Number 46, Swimming Pools. SpongeBob and Patrick build a swimming pool, and Squidward really wants to play in it. So I think we've seen plots like this before. And of course, overnight, what does Squidward do? He plays in the swimming pool. And then in the morning, he hides in the shed. SpongeBob and Patrick find him, use him as a toy, until Squidward unravels himself, and they find out that it's actually Squidward. It's a great episode, and I'm glad that SpongeBob and Patrick ain't just torturing Squidward the whole time. Yeah, when he's a pool toy, he is being tortured, but Squidward could have just stood there and, walked away. He didn't have to run into the shed. I don't know. On one hand, there's some parts about this episode that are a little annoying, but for the most part, it's a pretty good episode. I think this episode gives probably about a B+. Number 47, The Goob Father. Now, this is a really interesting one. The Krusty Krab and the Goofy Goober restaurant kind of going head-to-head with one another. Now, that is a really interesting and unique plot that we've never seen much before. So it's really fun seeing both these restaurants go together. I love the characters, the owners of the Goofy Goober. They're great characters, and they're fun to watch. And, of course, it's fun seeing the battle between both the restaurants. I like it. This one would get probably an A tier from me. Well, A-. Number 47, Squidbird. Oh, jeez. Here we go again. Another episode where Squidward gets tortured for no reason. Just because he exists in Bikini Bottom means he has to get tortured by the clans. Great. This was basically an episode from season 11, which was actually a fairly good one, with SpongeBob hanging around the clams and stuff. But it's just the clams torturing Squidward the whole time. Gee, what fun. Yeah, this episode's down there as one of the worst from season 13. It probably gets, at best, it'd get an F+. Or at best, it'd get a D-. At worst, it'd probably get an F+. Number 48, Allergy Attack. So, SpongeBob has been making Krabby Patties for a long time. But all of a sudden, when he gets close to a Krabby Patty, he ends up breaking out in all these hives. So now they think that he's allergic to Krabby Patties. Okay. And then all of a sudden, everyone else ends up getting this weird allergic reaction. And then we find out that it's Squidward's perfume. it's hilarious. But it's one of those very, very predictable episodes, too. Come on, we're 13 seasons into SpongeBob. Like, I'm expecting episodes. These are episodes I've seen before. So, it isn't really anything too crazy new. It kind of reminds me of Fungus Among Us from Season 5 a little bit. Just less gross. I'd give it probably a C+, I guess. Maybe C. Number 48, or 49, whatever. Big top flop. So in this episode, SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs end up running a circus. Sure, why the heck not? I love the different roles that they play, too. Mr. Krabs as the ringleader, SpongeBob as the guy on the net, and Squidward as the sad clown, which is hilarious. And I love how Squidward is actually getting recognition in this episode, and people are cheering for him, opposed to the opposite, which I feel like we got a lot of in this season. So I'm really happy to see that Squidward's in what should feel like more of a normal bit of Squidward. And this is just a goofy episode all around. So this is up there as one of the best from Season 13. It gets an A+, potentially S tier. And our last episode, we'll just top off and say, we'll just pretend this is episode 50, because why not? Sandy, help us. So Sandy has to help out a bunch of different people, but she can't really get things done. So she makes a new science experiment that basically creates another Sandy to do the chores around her house. But that doesn't end up working, and Sandy has to call Narlene over to help her. Which is kind of random, but okay, why not? So they end up stopping the crazy Sandy that Sandy ends up creating, and there you go. That's the episode. Yeah. Nothing else I really have to say about this one. It's fine. It'd probably be up there as like a C+, B-. One of those categories, but yeah. There we go. That's all of Season 13. Good lord, I think I know why I only do these SpongeBob ratings like once a year. Just because it takes a lot out of me, and it gets long sometimes. And unfortunately for a season like Season 13, it's a pretty long season. 50-some episodes, yeah, that's a lot. But the big question is, how well did I like Season 13? I will say, the first time I watched Season 13, I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. The Squidward torture got very overbearing after a while. The jokes kind of fell flat at times, and it pulled way too many references from older seasons and had way too many crossovers that just seemed stupidly unnecessary. But for the last two times that I rewatched it, I will say I have softened up to this season a little bit. I don't want to just automatically assume that modern SpongeBob is going to be bad, like what everyone else thinks. But I don't want to make it seem like it's going to be the best season ever, either. In order of how I would put this, Season 13, I will say that it definitely isn't my favorite season. That's for sure. Like I said, all those things I've said before, with them pulling too many references from the older seasons, it's a little too much. Patrick is still annoying. Mr. Krabs can have his moments too. The crossovers from the other SpongeBob shows are just crazy. Like, they should not be having anything from the Patrick Star Show or Camp Coral, because that's just ridiculous. They should not be having anything from those two series interfere with this. And of course, I think the thing that kind of keeps this season from being up there as one of my favorites is just all this Squidward torture. It's like they were bringing it back or something. I don't know what was wrong with them. I didn't have much of a problem with the Squidward torture in seasons 9 to 12. Like, I felt like for the most part they did a fairly good job, and they maybe had like 1 or 2 episodes, but I feel like almost every time we saw Squidward this season, he was getting tortured by something. It was not fun. Not fun at all. That's what really puts it down for me, is that we're 13 seasons in, and Squidward is still, to this day, getting tortured. And I feel like they're getting worse again, so why? I know we're up to season 17 now, but still, like, this, even back then when you made this season, why would you do something like that? It just seems kind of unnecessary. I know, SpongeBob isn't for everybody anymore, it's just for the kids, but I don't care. I can be 22 years old and still enjoy SpongeBob. But now deciding of where the season goes amongst the others. Well, it's obviously better than the horrid era of SpongeBob. I think you know what I'm talking about. Season 5, 6, and 7. And I would definitely go as far as saying it's better than Season 8 and Season 4 as well. But now we get to the other seasons. I still like modern SpongeBob, but I don't know. It's released recently. It's been getting pretty. I like a lot of classic SpongeBob too, but I say Season 13. It's somewhere around the below era of the. Like, okay, if I was just doing the modern seasons, obviously 10's my favorite. I love Season 10. Then I'd probably say Season 11. I'd say this is how I'm gonna say. It's going to be Season 10, followed by Season 11, then 12, then probably 13, and then probably 9. I think that's probably where I'd put it. Because I'm still, as of now, unsure if these seasons and the original 3 are better or worse. The original 3 are somewhere in there as well. Anyway, with all that said and done, I hope you enjoyed this video, and Connor, once again, sorry for keeping you waiting 2 years for this video, but sometimes it's worth the wait, right? So I hope you enjoyed this hour-long video of me reviewing all episodes from SpongeBob Season 13. Have a great day, everybody.